I'm not looking at you now, Tubzi. People who are YouTube coaches, and they'll shout from the sideline. When I competed at brown belt, I remember getting on the mats, having a huge adrenaline dump, right? And I had a strategy at the time that I'm going to do this. I forgot everything. Yeah. And this is near on 17, 18 years of jiu-jitsu now, right? Welcome to the Flowing State of BJJ, where we talk about all things jiu-jitsu. Today our topic is about parents in jiu-jitsu. So, Tubzi, what's our take on parents in jiu-jitsu?
Oh, where do I start? I feel like I'm the parent that you should not be like in jiu-jitsu. But we'll go deeper into it. Obviously, there's a fine balance where you are supporting and not smothering, which obviously we'll dive into. I think this will be beneficial to a lot of parents, to coaches as well, to understand.
Up and coming coaches.
Exactly, up and coming coaches to understand how they can tailor their jiu-jitsu classes to parents. So, I mean, we've got a big agenda on the cards today. So, I mean, shall we kick off then?
Let's go for it.
Let's just get straight into it. Should parents coach kids in BJJ? And what I mean by that, I don't mean should parents train a little bit, become coaches, open their own gym and start coaching. What I mean is where parents are on the sidelines, the coaches who have spent, as we know, Babar spent 25 years being a practitioner. Watch last week's episode. You'll love it. So you'll see, we know coach has been teaching for 25 years. Should a parent from the byline get involved, as in shouting to their kids, do this, do that? Where does the line stand?
Well, the short answer is no. They shouldn't. When coaches look at the syllabus and when they're looking at what they're doing, what we try to do is we try to get the syllabus, so we're trying to get a point across, we're trying to get something across. And now we've got the kid's got feedback coming from his parent, which might be contradictory to what the coach is trying to say. A lot of times a few times in our gym, what's happened is we're trying to teach a move and parents have called us over, or parents are shouting like, oh, go for it, like, push harder, get on top. I'm like, well, we're playing the bottom game right now. We're trying to teach him guard, and what you're doing is you're trying to get him to get on top. This isn't about winning or losing. Sometimes without the bigger picture, it's hard for a parent to see the child underneath, but
it's not a nice feeling.
Having kids on the mats, like I've been in that situation, but sometimes it's a place they need to be, because we need to be in bad positions to be able to get better in them positions, right? So should a parent, to answer the question more directly, should a parent from the sidelines be shouting? No, they shouldn't.
What if the parent, instead of, let's say they were not a layman, because not every parent knows about jiu-jitsu. A lot of parents put their kids in there for fitness. They might have got bullied, motivation, discipline. And some parents want their kids to become good at jiu-jitsu, to compete and so on, which we'll talk about a bit later. So does it change if the parent who is thinking they're a coach from the sideline knows something about jiu-jitsu, and for example, they may see them doing something, it's quite not right, and they're giving pointers, look, get your elbow tie or shrimp or something along those lines?
So what we find is, through experience, find more experienced people who train on the mats. You'll find they'll pull their child to a side afterwards, and they'll have that conversation. Do you remember being in that position? This happened, you should have done this. That's what more experienced practitioners do. You come one level down where you see people who are, and I'm deliberately not looking at you now, Tubzi, people who are YouTube coaches, and they'll shout from the sideline, right? Because they've seen it on YouTube, they think it's easy to do, like, just get up, right? You're just like, just get up.
It's not that easy. Everyone would be getting up then, wouldn't they?
It's not that easy. So you see the more experienced, to cut it short, the more experienced people will pull their kid to a side and have that conversation. The less experienced people will shout because they think that child needs it now. They don't need it now.
It's funny because you mentioned that, because what you're saying is I'm thinking about my own journey, and I'll be the first one to admit, when I'm on the sides, I feel like I started off with, and this probably will resonate with a lot of parents, not just at our gym, but other gyms as well. When they aren't, so you've never trained, You're not on the mats. You don't know how it feels to have someone cavitating your lungs from a side pressure control, from side control or something. And they're on the floor, someone's on top and you're like, come on, get up, come on, all of this. But then, and that was me, which was wrong. I totally agree with you. Parents shouldn't be saying that because it's not easy until you said to me, get on the mats. And I got on the mats and I know how it is now. And I feel like, I'm training for 2-3 months now with you, that I'm not going to say coaching style because that's an insult to coaches. I'm not a coach. My style of motivating or speaking to my daughter is now that she does what she needs to do on the mats. We don't say nothing. At the break, the water break, she'll come to the side. I might say, look, where was that underhook? If you get that underhook, he'll make it a bit easier. Just shrimp out a bit more, something along those lines. So I think what you're saying is perfect, is so true but it's a very hard one because you're on the side. The coaches might be with another kid or something, and you think, oh, I'll just tell her. But there's a time and place when to say it.
The other thing you got to kind of see is you're very emotionally invested in your child, and there's nothing wrong with that. I expect as a parent for you to be super emotionally invested in your child. But what you got to see is there's 2 people in this role. And you giving all this. I'm not so fussed about when you try to motivate your child a little bit. That's cool. But when you're giving all these, like if you're overdoing it, like get on top, crush him, this, that, and you start talking like this, which no one in our gym does, because if they do, serious words will be up. But when that does happen, when we see it, like there's another child here, right? And imagine what the other child is thinking.
And their parents are thinking. You might become a bit of animosity between you two.
And this is why it's so important that the gym culture prevails. Right? And I've seen you do it before, Tubzi, and to give you credit from the sideline is when your daughter gets on top or something like that, you start coaching the other child a little bit to get them to help them out. And it's important as a coach and as a parent as well to balance. So typically what we'll do, and I've seen the other coaches in our gym do it a lot, is we'll coach the kid who's not doing so well. Right? So if the kid's underneath getting smashed in side control, like we will coach that kid as much as we can out of side control. But when they get on top, you hear the coaches switch.
It's like
that's the other kid.
And my daughter said that to me. She goes, "Oh, why was he not telling me what to do?" Then I'm like, because you're in a better position. You're only as good as your training partner. So so I think that's a valid point, and I think it goes into the next topic what we will need to discuss. How would you expect a parent to balance being a parent and also being a second coach? And this could be on the mats or at home. I think more so at home because we've covered on the mats. So for example, let me paint the context for you guys, is that your kid trains, they might be doing, I don't know, headquarters position to a knee cut or something, and that's the topic of the week. And then they go home and the mum or dad starts becoming the black belt and starts coaching. What's your take on parents taking the mats home and working on what you might have taught them that particular day?
So I don't have an issue with that. If the child wants to go home and train, and plenty of parents have come up to us and say like, this is taking over their life, and bless. So if the parent wants to go home and spend more time with the kid, I'm 100% for it. Right? What again we don't want to do is don't start making stuff up. Right? Because once they come to pressure test it, it's not going to work. One of the things, I think we talked about this in our last episode, where we were talking about when I became a black belt and everyone expected me to know. One of the things that I learned very quickly was I don't know. And if I don't know, I need to say I don't know. My sons often come to me with questions and I'm just like, I don't know, but shall we work it out? We'll work it out, we'll come to the class, they'll pressure test it, come back, that didn't quite work because blah blah blah. So if you don't know, make sure you're having that conversation with son, daughter, I'm not quite sure, let's try some stuff, we'll go take it to coach, we'll have a conversation with coach before the session or after the session quickly, look, this situation's occurring, we're not quite sure how to get out of it.
What's the answers?
What's the answer? If the coach knows, the coach will give you. If the coach doesn't, a good coach will go research it, come back, or they'll explore it there with you, and then you can work together. So, is there an issue with going home and being coach number 2? Not a problem. just know your boundaries is kind of the advice that I would
Yeah,
give
it's
there.
a very fine line in it, and it's hard as a parent. I think it's harder as a parent when where jiu-jitsu is so important to you, where you want your kid to excel, and there's a bit of a you living through your kid moment, which some people don't agree with, and sometimes it just happens. But I think, yeah, it's a fine balance. Where do you think, so obviously you get parents who are giving motivation to their kids, and that's like, come on, you can do it, let's, dig deep and so on, different kind of phrases they can use. What are your thoughts on a parent giving motivation and getting so engrossed into it where it turns into just too much pressure, and it becomes this negative kind of thing where the child thinks, oh, I'm rolling today, and all I'm going to hate is my mom or dad, all of that. How do the parents stop themselves from turning that motivation into a negative pressure?
It's an interesting one. So from my perspective, the child doesn't need that pressure when they're rolling in class.
Okay.
Right? So when they're rolling in class, my advice to the parents is stay quiet.
While they're actually rolling.
While they're rolling, stay quiet. If you have feedback, let them come to the side. Yeah. Give them feedback. Yeah. If you really can't stop yourself, right, we have a viewing window. Go stand outside the viewing window. Right, like you can shout as much as you want out there. No one's gonna hear you. No one's hearing you inside.
Are the windows soundproof? Because I'll stand there. I think you'll still be able to hear me.
Well, I'm gonna send you. Nobody will hear you. You still got to try controlling yourself, but you know what I mean. You got to start restraining yourself in terms of the motivation. The child needs to be able to navigate the mats themselves. Yeah. What we're trying to do, remember, and again, this goes back to what we were talking about last week, it's very intertwined here about coaching, is we're trying to build better humans.
That's the ultimate goal, right?
That's the ultimate goal. We're using jiu-jitsu as one of our tools. Yeah. What we want to start doing is start weaning them off the reliance on their parents.
Yes. Yeah. Bit of independence. What we see, and this is, going back to your daughter, we see this a lot, is I'm talking to her, trying to explain something to her, and she looks past me to you. Yeah. Right? And I don't have an issue with that. Right? The value we put on parents is second to none. Right? So we value them very highly. But what we need to do is start giving them a little bit of independence. Right? Mom and dad's there, but I can do this. Yeah. You're right. So the way we do that is we start giving them that space to be a little bit creative on the mats. Yeah. And if things go wrong, that's okay. Yeah. That's all right. Something went wrong. I tried to sweep, it didn't work. When they come back to you at the end and they did that sweep, I'm like, what were you trying there? Yeah. I was trying this, but it didn't work, Dad. And just have a laugh and say, no problem. Yeah. Carry on. It's funny you say that, because I totally get that, is where the child, and my daughter is very infamous for doing that, and it's probably not her fault, it's probably my fault from putting that pressure on her. The old me anyway. The child trains for the parents' acceptance of their effort or their performance rather than training for the art itself. So I think when the ultimate goal for the parent is to, make this child fall in love with BJJ, and as they grow up, you want them to stay on the mats, because that's another story in themselves. When they hit that teenage years, how do we keep them on the mats? That goes against the parent whose intentions are good, but maybe not expressed in the right way.
One of the things which can help is asking the child about the role. One thing that you see is parents sitting on the sideline. They won't have that conversation because they were there. They saw the role. I don't need to ask my child about what the role was about. I saw it. But the child probably had a very different perspective of this role. So even if you saw it, ask them how they found the role.
Not what you as a parent think of the role.
And then there's the next bit. Listen.
The hardest part.
The hardest part, because you've seen the role, and you know from your perspective outside sitting on the sidelines what happened. When they start talking, it's really easy to, I already have this information.
Yeah, you might say, oh, well, no, that didn't happen. He or she was actually on top of you.
Yeah, definitely don't do that.
I don't do that.
Definitely don't do that. But be open to listen. And why do you think? Ask open-ended questions. It'll do two things. One, it'll promote your child talking to you.
Yeah.
Right? And if you just listen and don't judge and don't push back, right, they'll do it more. Because they'll think, oh, mom, dad really wanted to hear about this. Right? And the second thing is you start opening up what their perspective is of jiu-jitsu, whether they're enjoying it, they're not enjoying it, and then we can start taking action plans based on it. So that's another way to just to help get that bond and get that, between what you want and what the child wants, and closing that gap of that difference.
So a close kind of topic linked to what we've just spoken about is the parent-coach dynamic. So we've just spoken about opinion and your thoughts on whether parents can coach at home, maybe on what they've learned in class. On that particular dynamic, how far, and we may have covered it, and just a little bit of time on this, how far can a parent go in terms of that coaching? Can they start working on new things, or would you say that it's always better to teach your kid what they've taught in class?
It depends on the level of experience of the coach, of the parents, of the parent. I say that because in my mind I was segueing into what I do, right? So quite often with my kids at home, we do strategize. Right? So with my youngest child coming up to comp, how are you going to do comp? What you're going to do? Are you going to pull versus are you going to wrestle? What are you going to do after that point? And we strategize because I have a depth of knowledge in this area. I like to think so, hopefully. Anyway, and I can share that with him. But if we start talking about, let's say, his geography exam, just as a pure knowledge aspect here, am I going to start strategizing about that?
Yeah, about interlocking spurs. That's the only thing I remember from geographer. Yeah, in the valleys, interlocking spurs.
So I don't know as much about this. So what I need to start doing is speaking to his geography teacher, asking his geography teacher what topics, have that discussion with his geography teacher, and try getting us the best all round we can get, rather than taking it on myself going, I know what the exam is. I sat my GCSE so many years ago. I can help him.
This is more specific to you now, Babar, based on the parent-coach dynamic. So as we know, your son, your eldest son is at a very good level now, alhamdulillah, and he's the purple belt. He's very specialized in certain aspects of his game, and if he comes to you for some advice when it's coming up to comp, so when you're working on something which he may bring to you, how do you stop being a parent and start being a coach at home? So
elaborate.
So for example, you might be working on some aspect of his game. I don't know. Let's say a K guard entry into something, and I could imagine that when you're coaching, you start. Obviously, as a parent, you're a protector, right? So where do you stop giving advice from that particular dynamic to giving advice from a coach dynamic? Does that make sense?
It makes sense, but I'm not sure how much that scenario is going to help. And the reason, and I'll explain, right? Being such a specialist in that area, my son, I'd say, arguably knows more about that particular field that he's specialized in than I do. Okay. So when he comes with stuff, it's stuff he's researched. Okay. And he's coming to me as a coach, not as a dad. Right? Okay. It just happens to be we live in the same house in terms of the coach, right? So when he comes to me and we were sitting down until 1 o'clock one day in our last episode, he's saying, Abuji, I've seen this. What do we think? Let me try it. Right? So he'll try it and I'll go, what if I just drop my hip? I'm being a coach now. I'm the father because I'm there. Right? He's got access to me whenever we're all at home. But he's coming to me as leaning on my experience in jiu-jitsu, not leaning as my experience as being a father.
Yeah, because sometimes, so it might explain my question a bit more, and I think you have answered it. It's like he might, if your son was a bit younger, for example, he might be coming to you out of fear. So, he's got comp nerves and he's asking, oh, Dad, I worked on that technique, what should I do? Just to kind of get that reassurance. So how do you switch off being a dad at that point when you realize, you know what, I can see a bit of anxiety here, my son, and I'll give him that reassurance. So I can imagine it intertwines becoming a parent dynamic and a coach dynamic.
Yeah. And so the best, again, it's hard to differentiate the two because I've been through it. Right? So I've been through them comp nerves, that anxiety, this journey that my sons are going through and the students at Gamefight are going through. I've been through that journey myself. So there's been times when I've woken up for comp and I haven't eaten because I'm so nervous, right? Like, and I've got butterflies, and they've seen that. Right? So they've been come down with me. He's coming to comp at the same time as me. I was like, why is dad not eating? You know what I mean? Like, so
he's a bit nervous.
Dad's a bit nervous. He's seen me go to comps when I've been really nervous. And I'm very open about how I feel about comps and if I'm nervous or not nervous, all that sort of stuff. I'm very open about it. So they kind of see that. So they do lean on me for that stuff sometimes. Or they did, especially when they were new to comps. Just be open and honest. Reassure them when you can reassure them. It's okay. It's only a game. It's only jiu-jitsu. We can tap at any time. Try your hardest. I don't care if you lose. These are all positive things we can reassure our children with, to let them know that, you know what I mean, we're trying here to do our best. We're not chasing the medals. If the medals come, alhamdulillah. If not, we're just going to get better and we're going to go on to the next one.
I think it's one particular aspect where you said, and this resonates so heavy with me and it will resonate with a lot of parents. You said it's only jiu-jitsu. And I think that's priceless, because I'm the first parent to admit sometimes I think jiu-jitsu is just life. And not more for me, more for my kids, because I'm thinking, because I'm so passionate, I'm thinking, look, she needs to get this. And it's not about getting medals, it's rather skill acquisition than medal acquisition, right? But learn this technique. Jiu-jitsu is life, and it is in a certain way, but there's more to life than that, right?
There's so much more off the mat.
Yeah, so much more off the mats, exactly. What mistakes do you think, so this is a two-pronged question, what mistakes do you think coaches and parents do make with kids? Let's start off with coaches, because...
Okay, can I take the with kids bit out of that?
Okay.
For a second. Okay. Let's answer that question, then we'll add the with kids bit. Okay. So what mistakes do coaches and parents make? Okay. I think the biggest mistake that I've seen we make is we don't talk to each other.
Is that parents talking to coaches?
And coaches talking to parents, both ways. This is not a one-way street. This is a two-way street. So we get parents come in, drop the kid off they go. Right? I don't see the parent until the end. And now the kid comes on the mat, so we're doing our thing. My parents, my dad says, my mum said, we're waiting in the car park. Okay, no problem. Everything signed off. I know that the parents waiting in the car park.
There's no safeguarding issues there.
So they go to the car park. Right? Now, where was the interaction? Right? Even if it's much like, so your youngest one is a beautiful example, so I'm going to use your youngest one. Right? At the end of the session, she comes up, did I do good today? Right? Now, as childish as that sounds, when I give that feedback to that child, right, that feedback goes to the parent. Yeah? And that parent now knows, because sometimes she'll come up to me and she says, did I do good today? And I'll say to her, you did medium. Right?
Medium.
Yeah, you did medium, because you weren't paying attention here, you weren't doing this, you weren't doing that. You need to do better next time. Right? That feedback goes to the parent, because she'll get a little bit upset. She'll strop over to that. Coach didn't say I did good today, I did medium. Right? And she'll have a little bit of a strop, but the parent now knows that, okay, that today, maybe because I did this or this before she came, it didn't...
How her mood was, how I influenced her and so on.
The parent will also know that the coach is going to be super honest with the child, within reason. We don't want to be brutal, but we'll be honest, and that feedback is important. So the child coming up to us and us trying to get feedback back to the parents is important. The parents coming and asking for feedback is really important.
What would you prefer, the kid coming up to you to be a messenger between you and the parent, or the parent coming directly to you and saying, what would you expect from them to ask you that? How did my kid do? What we can do to improve?
How did my child do today? They didn't get in trouble, so they did all right. Like, if I have to tell someone off, I'd really like the parent there. So at the end of the session, right, how did they do? They weren't too well today.
So they're informed.
So they're informed, and now the child knows that that feedback loop is there.
So it starts improving, helping improve their behavior.
We need to start working together. If the child hasn't been so good externally, right? So a parent came to me the other day saying, like, he got into a fight today at school. Right? And I was like, what happened here? And now the kid's face dropped like, oh, coach knows. Right, I got into a fight. Right? And he started making it was because they did this, it was because they did this, because they did. No, coach needs to know these things so we can have these, the child has to be accountable. Yeah? So that's really important, that feedback coming from outside into the gym and feedback from the gym going out.
We'll move on to another topic now. And it's a bit of I think you being a coach for, I'm not going to quote the years because I always get it wrong. How long have you been a coach for?
So it's been about 15 years.
15 years. Because numbers like 15, 25, 20, I always have these three numbers, but I wanted to get it right. So you've been a coach now for 15 years. And this question, I think you'll have a good kind of experience of it. It happens with all gyms. Now, you get kids, they come to your class, and kids go. Yeah, it's part of life. Something starts, it has to end. How do you, as a coach, strategize to keep the kids on the mats? And this can be as detailed as your kind of structure to your class. What do you do to keep the kids on the mat?
All right, so one thing we have got on, you're going to add.
And what can parents do to keep the kids on the mat as well?
Okay, so I think for parents to keep the kids on the mats, if we answer that first, there's two things. One, we touched about it a little bit earlier. Be involved, ask the questions. How did you do? How you going? What moves did you learn today? Ask them questions when they come off the mats. Be interested. Get on the mats yourself. So if a parent is on the mats, and we're talking about stuff which is quite related to last week's topic. One thing we said last week was parent is a footballer, the kids want to be footballers. So if you're on jiu-jitsu and the child can see you're taking an effort in this and you enjoy this, they'll want to do it too. So get on the mats and try. We have beginner classes. You can take a baby steps. You don't have to jump into the most advanced class.
I think I'm an ambassador to that, because there was a time where my little one came to me, my eldest one, and came to me. She came up to me and said, "Baba, you're not on the mats yourself, and you're telling me." And then this carried on for about a month or two. And then when I started training, it was a different perspective and approach to me. I'd come home and she'd say, "What did you learn today?" "Oh, can I learn that?" "No, you can't. It's illegal for kids," and so on, right? So you're right. It changes their approach on how they interact with you about jiu-jitsu when you get on the mats.
So one thing that I want to just add into that little bit there is that it's very difficult to try to understand what it feels like to grapple without grappling. That experience is words and images cannot portray what it feels like when another person has you, and like you were talking about earlier, right? You can watch as many jiu-jitsu matches as you want, as many MMA matches as you like,
or YouTube videos.
Right? But once somebody experience gets you and pins you inside control, right? Or when you have them in guard, and they are trying to pass your guard, and you're fighting for your life to not let them pass your guard, right? But they pass anyway.
And that feeling of failure, oh my God.
Yes.
It humbles you. And I don't know, this will stay with me forever, because you said this to me, and it goes nicely with what you're mentioning, is that when I said I'm going to come and train, and you said to me, "Come, and it'll make you a nice guy." And I was like, what's this guy on about? Anyway, I've come, and with all this YouTube knowledge in my head and instructionals, and I've left the gym, and you know what? I felt at peace, and I felt like a really nice guy. I was humbled, and I got your point when you said that. So I just wanted to mention that.
It's very difficult to portray on camera how important it is for the parents to experience what we're putting our children through, because it's hard. It's hard to explain. I'm not eloquent enough with words to try explaining it. I don't think there are words. You need to get on the mats and try.
The kids are winners anyway. They've got on the mats. It takes a lot of effort and a lot of bravery for them to get on mats. So, I believe that.
So why kids want to quit then, right? So they've done the hard step. They've come on the mats, and the parents are encouraging, asking them questions. One thing we have to understand is jiu-jitsu is hard, and it's a very unforgiving sport. Right? So if you're having an off day and you come to jiu-jitsu, like there's nowhere to hide.
Yeah.
Right? Like especially in the kids class, we group our kids to do with the same belt levels.
Yeah.
Right? So if you're a more advanced kid and you've had a long day, you've gone to play football beforehand, and then you've come to the mat, you've had a tiring session, you did training beforehand, any of this stuff, now you're jumping on the mats. And now you got this other person who's woke up an hour ago. Fresh, 100%. Right? Dad's been giving him motivational speeches, been listening to C.T. Fletcher on the way here. And he's come bouncing into the mat and you're knackered. Like, that's going to be a hard session. Right? And if that happens again and again and again, and you're not getting any success in the gym, that's very hard. It's very hard to lift yourself up from. Yeah? So that's one reason why that we can try helping, but that's one reason why kids quit. Not seeing progression. So jiu-jitsu doesn't really have the thing of immediate gratification. If you look at from the adult side, just for a second, switching the adult side, there's only 5 belts. On average, it'll take between the first belt and the second belt in the adult syllabus to get your blue belt. I normally advise guys that it's going to take you 4 years unless you do something to reduce it. 4 years for a child is a ridiculously long time. It's a long time. So if they're not seeing progress, and it's hard to see progress in a class because you're getting better at roughly the same rate as everyone else.
Very relative, isn't it?
And if the whole class is getting better, and you're not seeing,
it's hard to shine and stick out in it.
And you're not getting any belts or any stripes. Like what's going on here? Am I getting better? So that's another reason. That's why in the kids syllabus we've introduced belts. Now, we do it in 2 phases, where the first part we just do it on attendance. Just the first part,
belts and stripes.
So just stripes. Stripes to do with the first one. So the first belt, to get your grey and white belt, that's based on attendance. And the reason is to give the child that gratification a lot sooner, right? So they don't lose interest. Am I getting better? Am I getting better? Right? Now the child knows this is attendance based, because I tell them, come 42 times, you'll get a stripe. Right? But for the child, it's an achievement. So as parents, I can see some of the parents like, well, you didn't really do anything. Right? But you did. You came 42 times.
Consistency.
One of the biggest indicators of success in jiu-jitsu is consistency. Right? To get from a white belt to a black belt is not your athletic potential. It's that person who just kept turning up.
It's just a white belt who never give up, right?
That's the saying, right? A white belt who never. I'm not more athletic than the next person. Right? I'm just that stubborn guy who just refused to give up. Right? When I was down, I came back. A year and a half out, I'd quit. I just came back. So,
and if you want to see that story, that's just dropped last Saturday, 1 p.m. on why Coach quit BJJ.
So get your child to be consistent. And when they get awarded for consistency, rejoice in that with them. Right? Be happy for them with that. Like, oh wow, you did really well. You managed to make it all the way to your first stripe, second stripe, third stripe. Not long now, you get that next belt. Keep working hard. Coach is saying you're doing really well. Keeps them engaged. So them are the things that I believe the 2 main reasons why kids give up.
So we've mentioned why kids quit. Now yourself as a coach, parents kind of input as well. What strategies can, so let's say the kid has quit now, what strategies or influence can you give a kid to reignite that love for BJJ, to get them back on the mats? And more so parents, because I think if the kid's not here and the parent's not here, I don't think the coach can do much unless they know them on a personal level. What can a parent do to reignite that love for BJJ to get them on the mats again?
A personal instance which I have seen of this happening is the parent getting involved in BJJ. So the parent wasn't all that involved in BJJ, on and off, didn't particularly do all that. There was a child who was involved in BJJ, then kind of faded off. And the main reason, I know the reason, is that child was the smallest child in the. And when we talk about, remember what I was talking about, successes weren't coming. Right? We tried our best to try getting them go against people that were maybe a little bit more experienced, but they just fell out of love. They're like, we're not doing this.
It happens.
Fair play. The child stopped coming. And then the parent got really involved.
Okay.
Right? Started coming to classes, started getting good, went to a competition. Right? And then the child's looking, going, oh, Dad's getting really good at this. Right? Dad's really involved. He's competing right? With a medal. But Dad came back all happy, like, oh, Alhamdulillah, I did really well. What an experience. Never had a rush like that before. Like, started having all these conversations, talking about it, right? Coach is very happy with the parent. The child can see that. And it started getting him like, oh, maybe like I should get...
It just reignites that spark, doesn't it?
A little bit. So that's the way that I've seen they get back into it, is the parent getting very involved.
Last kind of aspect on what we were just talking about, how to reignite. I think one of a point I wanted to make, and it's really worked wonders with my oldest girl, is the role of fun, friendship, and family support. So we won't cover the family support as much because we've talked about parents, but the role of fun and friendship. I think the biggest thing for me is the friendships that, and a bit of a personal kind of insight to my life. A lot of my life is based around people who I met in the gym, and I haven't known them for, I've only known them for 2-3 years at the most. And it's like, you've known them for years, and it's like, it really does bring community together. And without getting emotional, Babar, as we said, you know, community first, excellent standard. It just pays homage to that. I'm the living example of that, your ethos as a gym. So I just wanted to get your kind of take, and maybe you can, the friendship aspect you'll understand as well. But in terms of the class, you know, fun's a big thing. What kind of influence does fun and friendship have on a child's interaction or the longevity of training at your gym or at a gym?
So if we talk about the fun aspect first, right? If the child is not enjoying what they're doing, they're not going to do it. You'll have to drag them kicking and screaming to get them to the gym. And you can only do that so much as a parent before, you know, your emotions as a parent stops you, right? You're not going to be able to do it all the time. So making the sessions fun, making sure your child has fun, right, is a big part of it. So fun is huge for us. And I say to the parents when they join that, make sure that we're not putting so much pressure on this child that, you know, they have to perform. Make sure they're just having fun. They enjoy coming. That's all we're looking for here. So that's part one. The second part, friendships are another reason why a child will come to the gym. Because I want to go see X, Y, and Z. I want to go train. We get kids who, like, someone's been training longer than the other, so they're in an advanced class, and the other one's not in the advanced class. When we let their friend jump into the advanced class with them, right? You see the smiles on their face.
And their training effort starts becoming a bit more,
and friends will train harder together sometimes. Right? Sometimes they'll train harder together sometimes than they will train with randoms. Now, I'm going to be honest, like, once you've been training here for 6 months, a year, right, that friendship naturally comes. Right?
It does.
Because you'll get to know people, and you'll get to find people who are of your same ilk. Like, one thing you all realize, and what we got to understand as coaches and parents, is every child isn't going to get on with every child in the gym. Right? As long as they're not antagonistic and they're not going out of the way to upset the other child, that's okay. Right? I'm not expecting, so we have quite a lot of kids, I'm not expecting every kid to be best friends with every kid. No, that's not the point.
It's funny because everyone has their own little groups, like in the corners, like it's like a school playground.
And that's fine, right? And that's fine. I don't mind that, right? Because we have so many personalities here. Right? And the personalities will gel together.
Certain ones will attract and certain ones will...
and the people who don't attract and they're like kind of against each other, as long as they're not causing issues with each other, that's fine.
As long as there's a bit of some respect there, at the gym.
That's what we're trying to push everyone towards, right? So that's the friendship aspect. They'll come to the gym, they'll find people of the same kind of vibe as them. They'll become friends. The relationship within Jiu-Jitsu will then continue to grow. And they'll want to go because their mates there, their friends there. They'll want to jump in.
Again, I feel like I'm the living example of that, where friendships have grown. It's kept my kids on the mats. I'm very thankful for that. Just last topic on this particular kind of subsection about parents and kids, and we're going to go on to comps and how we can help your kids as a parent and a coach to get them ready for comps and the nerves. This is a bit of a bit of a direct question, and I want an honest answer from you now. What do you wish, as a coach, parents knew? I mean, that it's a whole plethora of examples you can give, but let's say 1 or 2 examples of what you wish parents knew.
So I can't do this to every parent, but I wish what they knew what it felt like to be under side control with me. Right? If I could just get every parent as an induction and say, come here for a second, I'm going to explain to you what it feels like to be stuck under somebody who doesn't want you to get up. Right? It'd immediately change their outlook on what Jiu-Jitsu is about.
I couldn't agree more. It feels like death, by the way.
So that's why that experience of what Jiu-Jitsu feels like, I think is so important for the parents to understand that. Not from I want them to train point of view. I do want them to train. I want every
just
parent
to understand what the kid is going to go through, even though you're not going to be smashing their kid in side control, but how it feels.
It's relative, right? So, like, I'm 83, 84 kilos. That's a pretty average weight, right? If I don't mind if the parents weigh more.
The weight's average, but the strength isn't. That's the problem here.
You're too kind. You're too kind. But I consider myself relatively average. So, and a child is going to have another child which is relatively average, pinning them. So that's why I say pinning inside control, right? As an example. So that experience is something that I wish every parent had an experience of.
But what you can do is maybe when you can set up a new induction process, parent under Coach Babar side control, and if they start crying, then your child can't join. Sorry. Okay, so we've covered quite a lot of sections there, guys, and I think a lot of it is myself and Coach Babar can kind of give you first-hand thoughts and experience, because we've been through it. Myself as a parent, it's a roller coaster. We know that it's so emotional at times where you just want them to excel, but you'd find they're not excelling. Hopefully some of the insights that coach has given us over here, Coach Babar, give myself and yourselves some kind of guidance on what we can do as parents to help our child excel and influence through their journey in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Coach, I just wanted to cover a topic which I find the club is going more towards this direction, and this is towards kids and competitions. Being a relatively new club, we're starting to see that kids are coming of a very good level, and that's testament to the coaches and the syllabus that you've implemented. And kids are starting to compete a lot more. Just off the bat, when is a child actually ready for competition? Is it based on a certain level of belt they get? Is it based on mentality that they have that dog and fight in them? When, in your opinion, do you think kids are ready for competition?
So I think we need to preface that question a little bit. I'm of the opinion that every child should compete.
Okay.
Not even every child. I think everyone should compete. Like, regardless of child, adult, everyone should compete. The level of stress it induces is phenomenal. Right? And that might sound bad, like, why am I giving them the stress? Right? The reason why it's important is there's a level of control stress. So we can control a lot of the aspects. And one thing that we say in the gym is the last thing we want is to train all these years, get into a situation where we need our jiu-jitsu, get an adrenaline dump, and forget everything. I remember competing at purple belt. I didn't compete for a long time until after I got my brown belt. It was maybe about 9-10 years before I competed again. That was a long time. When I competed at brown belt, I remember getting on the mats, having a huge adrenaline dump, right? And I had a strategy at the time that I'm going to do this. I forgot everything. And this is near on 17, 18 years of jiu-jitsu now. Right? And someone with that much experience forgot how to do jiu-jitsu. Right? Like, it's important that we learn how to deal with stress. So if we can control it and still induce stress, we're going to build better people.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the main reasons why parents do put their children into jiu-jitsu, is to deal with that pressure that we know how hard life is. And becoming good at jiu-jitsu is just a byproduct, initially for a lot of parents, and it was definitely for me.
So that's the part of, I think everyone should compete. When should they compete is the next question. And that's the question that you asked. I think it's very dependent on the child. So you get children in the gym who are very timid, very shy.
Yeah.
And then you get some who are very boisterous and outrageous. One topic, and this is going off on a tangent, but it's an important one, is when you put your child in jiu-jitsu, don't expect to change the child. What I mean is, if someone's a shy child, don't expect them to become an extrovert because they know jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen. I've had conversations with people like, oh, you need to make someone so more confident. Confidence is fine.
Confidence doesn't mean loud, does it?
Doesn't mean an introvert's going to become an extrovert. That's not going to happen.
They're still going to sit at home, play Fortnite all night, right?
They're still going to be the same person.
Yeah.
Right? They're just going to be more confident in themselves.
Yeah.
Right? So I think sometimes parent thinks that, oh, I'm going to bring them in here and then they're going to go from where they are to Jackie Chan and they're going to walk down the street. Like, this is not going to happen. They're still going to be the same child.
Yeah.
Right? If they're an introvert and shy, they're going to stay introvert and shy.
Yeah.
If they're an extrovert and loud, they're still going to be extrovert and loud.
Yeah.
It's just the level of confidence is what we're looking to do. Where manners and everything else we'll bring into it, but that's not going to change the child. Coming back now to when should they compete? Right? A shy child who's very not so confident is just going to take longer to work with. Yeah? A child who's very extrovert and confident, it's going to be super easy to work with. You just go up to them and ask them, do you want to compete? They're like, yeah, let's compete. Who? Shall I fight you?
So yourself as a coach, and we'll put this question to as if we were asking a parent. Yourself as a coach, when is a child actually ready? So is that, I know you've spoken about different types of personalities. It's easier to get someone who's loud, and that's just based on the confidence aspect. But in terms of like, are we looking at a level of jiu-jitsu here, or are we just looking, is it solely based on, oh, you know what, that kid's not going to start crying on the mat and just tap out, from the pressure? Is that the point?
As a personally, I look at it as when they're hard to pin. If your kid's hard to pin, they're hard to submit, and if them two things go together, they can start building plans in the competition. If they can get pinned really easily and they don't know how to get out of situations, right, then going to comp and start to build a comp plan for them is like, we're too early yet. They're not cooked yet. Yeah. So if they can handle themselves, they technically escape, not just bench press people off. Yeah. If they have the technical ability to be able to get out of pins, survive submissions, stuff like that, then we'll go. We don't teach submissions to anyone under 7.
Okay.
I don't feel, and this is why the club doesn't do it, because I run the syllabus. I don't feel teaching a 5, 6 or 7-year-old how to do rear naked choke is the sensible thing to do. Because in other martial arts, you can get a black belt as a child. Right? In Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you cannot. Right? Can a 7-year-old defend themselves against a fully grown adult? No. It's not going to happen. Even if they know how to do the most technically perfect rear naked choke. Right? I've had, as a coach, you mess around, I've had 5, 6, 7-year-old kids jump on my back, throw on a rear naked choke, and I just stand up and walk away with them still hanging on to the rear naked choke, right? They don't have the ability yet, the strength in their arms, the squeeze. They just don't have it yet. So they're
just not developed, are they?
So if we're not teaching them how to defend themselves against adults, the only people that can really effectively do these moves on is other kids. Cool. Do I ever want a 5-year-old to do a rear naked choke on another 5-year-old? I do not. The child does not have the cognitive ability to understand what death is. Because when we're talking about rear naked choke, let's not play about now, right?
It is that serious.
We're talking about this serious, right? They don't understand what the consequence of a fully hyperextended arm when it starts going pop, pop, pop. Right? What's going on here?
They'll be thinking snap, crackle and pop, breakfast time.
Pop, breakfast time. So because the child doesn't have the ability to understand the consequences of what they're doing yet, I do not teach anyone under 7 how to do submissions. When they go to 8, 9, right, now they understand consequences better, so we can start doing that. What do they do under 7? They do positional stuff. learning how to move. A big thing in jiu-jitsu is how
So massive.
movement versus moves is a conversation we have all the time, right? We need people to be able to move. And if a child can move, right, once they go into that 8+ class, watch their jiu-jitsu skyrocket.
The submissions will just come, because you can teach a technique and it requires a certain kind of movement. If the child cannot understand the concept of maybe like a forward shrimp, what we was doing the other day. I mean, even adults are struggling with a forward shrimp in the beginner's class, and let alone a 6 or 7-year-old child. How can they do a certain move or a submission on the back of that? So I totally agree with the syllabus.
And we were talking about the escape, we were talking about link, right?
Yeah.
Now, as a beginner's class, you've done that escape before.
Yeah.
But how did the effectiveness of that technique skyrocket once you learn how to forward shrimp and create more space, right? So this is what we're talking about. We want movement to be the key fundamental of the younger age group. Yeah. And now once they come into the next age group, now we start teaching them moves. And then the movements and the moves link together, and you'll see the jiu-jitsu skyrocket. The issue is here though, right? Is that's there's years in the development pipeline here, right? It's not we do moves on day one, we do movement on day two. It's not like this. The plan is to do movement-based stuff for a couple of years and then go on to the next one. That's hard to see as a parent. It's hard as a child. That's why we do get them that really quick reward, right? So it keeps them involved, keeps them engaged. They know they're getting better. Right? So that's the plan from our academy point of view.
Yeah, but it's something that I couldn't agree with more. Movement. If you have a understanding of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, movement is pivotal. It's key, right? Okay, so we've covered when you feel kids are ready for Jiu-Jitsu, and just a short. Just your thoughts on this, and don't want to spend too much time on it, is what if a parent came to you and said, Babar, my kid wants to compete, I want him or her to compete, he's going to compete. What would you, and you thought, you know what, your child's not ready for competition. How would you handle that?
Honesty. I would be blatantly honest with the parent. Because it's not the parent that's going to suffer. Parents bring their child to jiu-jitsu because they can't teach them themselves. Right? Because if they could, then you should. Right? My thing is, like, if you're a black belt or a purple belt and you can teach your child, do it. Right? If you're bringing your child here because they're getting other roles, fantastic, no problem. But let's have that conversation, right? If you're, as a parent, coming in and you're not experienced and you're telling me how to, like, my child wants this, that, the other, then there's a bit of a role reversal here. Right? And I will take offense. So what I expect is to have that conversation. Ultimately, the decision is the parents, not mine. If the parent, because as much as responsibility as I take to protect the child, right, I got to understand that the parents have more of a duty. Right? Mine is to protect the child, and I'll protect all the kids on the match to the best of my extent, right? But the parent sees this child way more than I do, and understands and knows this child more than I do. So if my opinion is an opinion based on how much I see the child, I will give my advice and back it as much as I can. Right? But if the parent says, no, this child needs to compete, then it's the parent's decision. My job is to give my opinion, and I'll give it honestly and frankly, because that's just the type of person I am. Right? I won't hold back. I won't say, oh, well, maybe no. If I don't think your child's ready for competition, you come to me and say, my child's competing, I will say, I don't think they're ready. They're going to get smashed. Let's just not do this yet.
So honesty and transparency is the key.
Yes.
I think an important thing you see sometimes in competitions is kids winning and losing. How can a parent and a coach teach a child to win and lose with grace? For example, they might win and they, we won, and they see the kid's face or the loser's face, and they just, how can we teach as parents more so, and from a coach's perspective, for children to win and lose with grace?
Here's an important topic, right? We talked about this a couple of times here, and it's important to teach our kids how to be good humans rather than just jiu-jitsu. So when and we've seen this at comp, I referee at comps, and we've seen it often where the child doesn't agree with the decision maybe, and they run off the mats in a strop. Or the kid wins and they get up and they're screaming, and and another kid's in a pile on the floor, right? So it's really important to teach the child how to be aware and to be disciplined. Now, I'm not saying that don't win, don't cheer. 100%. I agree. When you're, again, you have to be in the moment, right? When you've got all that adrenaline running and you've worked really hard to get to something, and you pull off a submission, and then like the guy taps and like you backward spring roll and jump up and you're like, yes, I got it. That's fine, right? But now that you've got that out of your system, make sure your partner, make sure the other person's okay, because Jiu-Jitsu is a very solo sport, but it takes two. Right? So make sure that person's okay. Right? And now go, and one thing that we absolutely enforce is if your hand's been lifted, you go to the other coach and you shake their hand.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, I don't care if you won or lost, you're gonna go shake hands with the other coach to show them that the respect is more important. So that's one thing that we enforce on our thing. So just be respectful, be super respectful, be mindful, and just make sure that everything you're doing is in accordance with our principles as a club. And them principles are based on respect and discipline.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of things there. One other thing I wanted to ask you, coach, is what's your take on team games? And what I mean by that is, what's your take on children doing other activities and sports other than Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu?
So I can only talk about this from experience of my children. There are children in the gym who do this. I think it's very important, even if they don't stick with the particular team game. So there's a social aspect, and we talked about friendship on the mats and stuff like that. But there's a social aspect about all of us need to chip in for the team to win that you don't get in Jiu-Jitsu. And I feel that helps build a certain part of character which we can't do in Jiu-Jitsu. So Jiu-Jitsu is really good for mindset. It's really good for confidence, and there's so much benefits of doing Jiu-Jitsu. But it's not the magic pill. And remember what we're trying to build. We're trying to build good humans. One aspect that we can't get in here is the social winning. Right? So as a team, when we all put the effort in, we'll do really well. As a team, if some of us slack, we're going to lose. So my kids, both of them played football. Right? And to the extent where sometimes they had to miss Jiu-Jitsu. Right? And as a Jiu-Jitsu coach, that hurts, right? I'm just like, I'd rather they came here, right? For me, it was something they had to do. Right? So I sent them to football. I went, go play football. Now, they have a choice, right? At a certain age, right? My eldest son went, I'm not doing that anymore. Right? And I'm like, fine, no problem. And he went headlong into Jiu-Jitsu. And Jiu-Jitsu is his thing now. Right? Still plays football occasionally, but not with the same passion he plays he comes to Jiu-Jitsu with. Right? My other son now, he does both. Right? So he trains during the week for sure. Trains Saturday. Sunday, depends if he has a match.
Which he'll miss Jiu-Jitsu for, right?
He'll miss Jiu-Jitsu, he'll go play a match. Right? On the off season, he's here all the time. Right? Because in football, they have off seasons. Here, when he's definitely not playing, he's here all the time.
So your point is, don't put your eggs in one basket, is that right?
And when we are going to pick another sport, don't pick another solo sport.
Okay, so because the team aspect is lost.
I feel the team aspect is important. So like another one is like, they'll do Jiu-Jitsu and they'll do swimming. Right? Swimming's a fantastic activity.
Both solo sports.
They're both solo. I would encourage the second thing you do, or the other thing, or one of the other things you do, to be a team, involve a team, right? Where they have to get to know their teammates and rely on their teammates. They have to lean on the teammates, right? Like if I'm a goalkeeper and there's like, I have to rely on my defense. If I'm a defender, I got to rely on my goalkeeper. It's not just me performing. I'm performing as part of a collective. I think that's important.
I couldn't agree with you more, because ultimately we're putting our kids in Jiu-Jitsu to have an easy life, the discipline, the pressure. And one of those aspects is the social aspect, which is a team kind of, where do they learn team skills? Where do they learn how to work as a team? Because it's very independent in it.
We try doing that the best we can. So, for example, the best we can kind of do that is when we say, go get a partner.
Yeah. And everyone just stood there like this.
Yeah, everyone just stood there doing nothing. Now, from the outside, from the parents' perspective, it's like, why are you not giving them partners?
Yeah.
I deliberately don't give them partners.
To allow them to engage, right?
I'm like, go say hello. My name is whatever. Yeah. Do you want to be partners?
My name is Bob. Hello.
Yeah. Now, the person opposite might say no.
Yeah.
That's fine. I want rejection to be part of it.
Yeah. Because it's going to happen in life.
It's going to happen in life. I don't want them to be scared to ask.
Yeah.
Like, can be partner? No. All right, no problem.
Yeah. Who wants to be my partner? Who wants to be my friend?
Yeah. And then when everyone's got a partner, oh, coach, I haven't got a partner. Okay, go find a 3.
Yeah.
We'll make you a 3 here. Yeah. So we'll find you something. That's the best we can do in jiu-jitsu. Yeah. We can play team games where bulldog charge and stuff like this, but this isn't the same thing as a football match and they go to the cup final or they win the league.
And they win together because you're winning solo, right? Even though you're a coach and your parents might be happy. I think it's a massive point. We've covered a lot of aspects, guys, from a coach's perspective and a parent's perspective as well on influencing kids on the mats, and if you want to be a at-home coach, at-home mum and dad and at-home coach. So hopefully a lot of the thoughts that Babar as a coach and as a parent, and myself as a parent and a wannabe coach, a YouTube coach, has given you insight, and hopefully you can use that information to make it slightly easier for your kid and just to understand that what they're doing is hard. As coach said, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is hard, it's not easy, and maybe we can give them less of a hard time, and if they might not have a successful role or something, take them to the side, as Coach Babar explained to us, give us a bit of guidance on how we can influence our child's journey in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So again, Coach, thanks a lot for giving us that insight. As a coach and as a parent, you're always dropping these, words of wisdom like an all-seeing oracle, and we're very thankful for that. We didn't get the tears this time, but that's fine. If you want the tears, watch the last episode. The last episode was on Coach Babar. It's an origin story beneath the belt. It gives you a massive insight into what Coach's journey was. Get the tissues ready, get the popcorn ready. Just comment below on what you think on some of our comments and thoughts that we mentioned. If there's any thoughts on what you want us to cover next week, also let us know that as well. Thanks for joining in, and we'll see you in the next one.
No, sister.
Oosh.